Now, this same chief economist went on to Neil Cavuto's show, right? Which is on Fox Business, a business network, right? And Neil Cavuto fact checks President Biden's chief economist on inflation and the economy live on the show.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah.
And guys, it's not pretty at all. It's not pretty at all what actually happens. So let's see what's going on, guys, and then we can then respond from there. But it is not pretty. Let's see what actually happens. Here we go.
Speaking of the White House, honored to have my next guest, the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, Jared Bernstein. You know, Jared, I understand your frustration sometimes when you look at the data and Americans don't buy the data, but they really don't buy the president telling them that they're essentially wrong. It's not that bad.
Okay.
So how do you navigate that?
Okay.
Well, that's not at all what the president tells them. And in fact, yesterday, if you look at his statement, which is on the White House website, on the inflation report, we got a very favorable report from the perspective of the markets today, as you have been reporting correctly. But he pointed out, I think one of his first sentences is, we know families are still struggling with prices that are too high. I mean, this is practically a quote from his statement yesterday.
Okay.
Never will this president blow off the struggles that families like the one he grew up in are going through. Instead, he'll take action to help them through cutting costs, prescription drug, clean energy, housing, childcare, junk fees, actively working to lower costs in those areas. So not at all dismissive of America's concerns in that regard, Neil.
Notice Neil posed the question. He didn't answer the question, and the chief economist didn't answer the question. Now let's watch how it gets a little bit spicy. Here we go.
All right, well, some might disagree with you on that, but I do want to get behind why the president keeps claiming this. This is what talking about inflation.
Okay.
Take a look.
Listen.
We have dramatically reduced inflation from 9% down to close to 3%. We're in a situation where we're better situated than we were when we took office. It was 9% when I came to office. 9%. But look, people have a right to be concerned. I think inflation has gone slightly up. It was at 9% when I came in, and it's now down around 3%.
What?
Jared, why does he keep saying that? You're his top you're the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. Do you ever whisper in his ear, Mr. President, just to be technical about it, it was at 9% when you assumed office, it was 1.4%. It got as high as 9% in 2022. You brought it down from that, but it was never, ever, ever 9% when you came into office. So why does he keep saying it?
Well, first of all, let me point out that in that very quote you played, the president talked about how concerned he was for households struggling with prices that he consistently characterizes as too high.
That's not what I asked you.
So
why does he keep misrepresenting this?
Watch him look down.
He's making the point
He's reading.
That the factors that caused inflation to climb to 9% were in place when he took office.
No,
I think
that's
it was
not what he said. He said it was at 9%. It would eventually get to 9% a little over a year after that. But the fact of the matter is it wasn't 9%. So if I can't trust him quoting data in real time, why should I believe what he's talking about now?
Correct.
So the annual growth in core inflation in the second quarter of 21 was in fact about 9%.
Yeah.
And his point about inflation down 60% off its peak is very much the case. So
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
No, it wasn't.
Look at that. Look at this, guys. I want y'all to see. I want y'all to see this. I want y'all to see this. Look right there. You see right there at January 2021. That's when he was sworn in. The inflation rate when it was being factored every 24 months, and not when they changed into 2022 to every 12 months, which makes it a flat line. But anyways, it is 1.4%. So President Trump gave him an economy of 1.4%. Look at the trajectory here. Look at this. 9.1% in June of 2022, a year and a half after you sworn in. What happened during that time frame, guys? That's when I believe the Inflation Production, not Reduction, Production Act was passed. Production Act was passed, and boom, it shot up. So the Inflation Reduction Act was passed during this time frame down here, right? And then boom, that was a reaction to excess printing. But then at this time frame as well, guys, that's when they actually changed the calculations from every 24 months and when you're measuring inflation to every 12 months, right? I did a show on that one as well also, right? Look at my previous shows. I walked through how they did it. This is not based on what I said. This is from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. This is a government agency themselves. They changed the calculations. It's very simple. But let's keep going. It gets very interesting. Here we go.
It was not at that. So you're almost as bad as he is. Why can't you just say it was high? It got as high as 9%. You'd be accurate in saying that. And we have now brought it down, and we're struggling in around the 3% area. But it's better than it was. But instead, to hang it on his predecessor, that you inherited something that was through the roof when we were in the middle of COVID. It just seems to the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you're lying. Neil. You're just lying.
Well, hold on. I hear you. The president was making the point that I think is unequivocally true. The factors that took inflation to 9% were in place when he took office.
That is not what he said, Jared, and you're a very smart guy with this.
What factors were in place when he took over that drove it to 9%? What factors? Because when he took over, it was at 1.4%. What factors were in place? There was no factors. And notice, this chief economist said the exact same thing that the press secretary said by saying the factors were in place. These are talking points. Right? No, what actually happened was, and how it's down to 3.4% is because the current administration changed the way they measure inflation from every 24 months to every 12 months. That's how they did that. So they can begin to brag about what's going on. Let's keep going. He's not done, y'all. This is good.
With this stuff, you could just whisper, and he's a good friend of yours, obviously thinks the world of you. Many others do as well. You could have just told him, Chief, I got to tell you, Mr. President, whatever you say, you might even, in fact, call him Joe. That's how close you are. And say, sir, it was not 9%. Stop it with the 9%, because the more you say that, the more people don't believe what you're saying.
Yes.
Look, I think what the American people care most about is the fact that inflation.
The American people care about truth, Jared.
Hold on, Neil. Neil, this only works if you let me talk, okay?
You haven't answered my question. I've asked it 5 times, five ways.
The president was making the point that the factors that caused inflation were in place when he took office, and that's unequivocally true.
Right.
I take your point, and we can have...
That is not true. What factors were in place that caused this? Why can't they just say, our printing caused this? That was the factor you're talking about. It wasn't, was it in place, that something was in place. The factor of you actually passing the Inflation Reduction Act, right? That is what caused this. More excessive printing is what caused this. Let's stop the game. Let's just tell the truth. That's it. It's all good, baby. Hey, we thought that this is going to work. It didn't work at all, guys. We're trying to make a pivot so we can actually get it under control. Okay, cool. Gotcha. No problem. Let's get it in. Understood. Why are you blaming it on your predecessor when we can just look at the numbers and say that it's not accurate? That's a lie. Again, that was a good exchange between Neil Cavuto and the chief economist. Again, this is chief economist, the same chief economist that doesn't know how government debt works. Not based on what I said, based on what he said previously. This is the thinking. Attention real estate investors, whether you are a seasoned or novice investor, we all know that with uncertain times or volatile times, that creates opportunities. Now, with these new opportunities, only the implementation of the correct strategies will separate that average investor from that great investor. There are 3 strategies that, if implemented the right way with the correct team around you, any investor can go from 0 to 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures in the next 12 to 24 to 36 months. Click on the link below or swipe up and let's talk through these strategies.